but just going to introduce you to some strategies that may help you in your work as an instructional assistant in your classrooms. Many of you, well, a few of you in this room have emailed me at some point, but there's my email address. And as you know, if you're emailing anyone in the district, all you need to do is put their first couple letters of their name, then you'll have options. Here are some things that you need to consider as an instructional assistant. Many of you already know these things, so some of this is just kind of a rehashing of just your common stuff that you do in your classroom. But if you're new, then you may not know that you should, practice being a good listener. Many of you who are married may have husbands or wives that you don't really necessarily listen to. Practice on them so you'll be better in your classrooms. Or you could do the opposite, practice in your classroom so you'll be better at home. But try and be a good listener, maintain eye contact, allow others to finish sharing their thoughts before speaking. That's something I'm kind of guilty of not doing. You don't have to nod your head. You can mute your camera, Mr. Pastor Coach M. Sometimes I'm guilty of not waiting until a person is done because I have unmedicated ADHD, self-diagnosed, of course, but I have to tell you what I'm thinking before I forget. And some of you are kind of like that. So also try to be open to what others might share with you. Don't necessarily stop a train of thought by a student because you think you know what they're getting ready to say, or don't interject your own either objection to or happiness about until they have finished their statement or their sentence. Choose a mutually convenient time to speak with others about your concerns, and it should never be during instruction time. And this is really for you, the adult, if you have a concern that you have regarding a situation that's happening in your classroom. Prioritize the concerns that you wish to discuss. And this is between you and your teacher. Anyone in this room right now, and you can be honest, it's just us. You're in a safe space to let me know whether or not you have any issues or concerns with your teacher. It's after school. It doesn't matter. You can tell me. I'll do what I can to help, or I can't. Everybody's got a perfect classroom. Everything works. Okay, Kayla, not necessarily. Kind of, sort of. I don't know, Kayla. I can't read you. I can't hear you either.
There we go. I just shook my head because nothing's perfect at all given times. So
absolutely. That is true. Every situation is not perfect, but you can have as close to a perfect situation as possible if you lay out all of whatever concerns you have in a way that comes across, I just would like to be here to help you. Part of this particular session is about how best you can help your teacher. If you guys don't have good communication, it's going to be difficult to try and help you do anything, because first and foremost, you're going to have to be able to talk and have open dialogue that means something. So avoid using emotionally charged words, refused, uncooperative, difficult. After holding a discussion, restate the outcomes to make sure all parties are clear on what was said or an agreement that has been made. That's a good way to close any conversation you had about a situation you have concerns over. Use positive I statements to express your concerns. You can say, I wanted to talk to you about whatever that situation that you have that's been on your heart to have laid out there. Try and use friendly, tactful language when communicating, and share your ideas and ask clarifying questions when appropriate. I have just been involved recently in a situation with a paraprofessional. And yes, you are all paraprofessionals, whether you're an intervention specialist, not an intervention specialist, but an intervention aide, instructional assistant, the child care assistants, all of you are classified as paraprofessionals. I've had conversations about this before in trainings in the past, but your technical position is as a paraprofessional. So just was involved in a situation where the paraprofessional and the teacher were not seeing eye to eye, have not been seeing eye to eye for the past 3 years. COVID being in the middle of those first two, that first year and this year has now ended up in a split. So please know that whatever issues you have with your teacher, and this is for free. If you have a problem with your teacher and you love being in that building and you love being in that classroom, you better get it together or they're going to move you. They're not going to move the teacher. They will move you. So if any of you are having any issues with your teachers, and like Kayla said, nothing is 100% all the time. It's not going to be perfect, but if it is at least as good as it can get while you're in the building and working with students that you want to work with, let's try to make it work. Just try to make it work. Use your active, did I already do this? I already did this. Did I do this? No. Make direct eye contact. Use nonverbal affirmation. Just nodding your head and sometimes you, some people make that noise. They lean forward a little bit. Attend to the message without drifting to personal thoughts, which is difficult for me, honestly. If I am not engaged in a conversation in which continues to make me think as I'm listening, I'm probably thinking about what I need to try and fix for dinner or what am I going to wear tomorrow to work? Because that's just me. I need to be engaged and I'm not going to listen to a bunch of rhetoric. I'm not overwhelmed by someone's like of things. You know, I got a new car, I got a new this, that's great, that's fine. But I'm probably not really going to be all interested in that. But if a student comes to me and talks to me about what they're doing in a class and how that makes them feel, I'm giving them full attention because they may not get that full attention at home or from their peers because their peers are like me. I ain't trying to hear you. I'm just trying to think about what I got to cook for dinner today. Not that his peers would be thinking about what they're cooking, but y'all know what I mean. They're not really fully giving all of their attention, but try and do that when you're at work. Use strategies to refrain from fidgeting, which as y'all can see, as I twirl around in my chair, I am a fidgeter. I wear rings that are fidgets. I have spinner rings. So those are things that I do because I'm not always still. Use strategies, and these are my strategies. Looking at the clock or watching the clock or doodling are things or signs that show that you may be still paying attention, but they may look like to the listener, you're not. Ask clarifying questions to be sure that the message is understood. An example of a clarifying question could be, what did you mean when you said? Sometimes as we talk and talk and talk, we kind of want that intervention either from our teacher or from our team IA in the MD classroom to ask me a clarifying question on something I've been talking about. Because I'm gonna ask one of you guys a clarifying question as I've been talking. Are you really listening to me? Did you hear me? No, Pastor Coach M. Are you serious? You got a question?
No, I have a statement.
What's your statement, sir?
What I was going to say when you're talking about clarifying statements or clarifying questions, one of the things that I try to never say is you said. I say I heard. This is what I heard you say. Is that what
perfect.
You?
That is perfect. And that goes with using I, because if you say you said, then you're trying to, it's almost like you're being accusatory. And what you don't want is give an impression that is not meant. I'm not accusing you of saying anything, but this is what I heard. Thank you for that, Pastor Coach M. I kind of sold you short there and I apologize in front of everybody.
That's okay. I'm thinking about what Anna.
Okay. Paraphrasing or summarizing the message to ensure that everyone is in agreement as to what has been said. When you paraphrase, it's important to remember that both the emotion and the words needs to match the intended message. And that's what we just said. You just got to be intentional with what you're saying. Nowadays, and I'm going to say this as unemotionally as I possibly can, people are very sensitive right now. And so with that, we have to be real careful about how we say what we say. And even what we say is important, but it's how we say what we say that can be even more important and more impactful, because it just is. Let me see if this will, let me see something real quick. Let me see if this will, this is something I found as, I gotta move it over here. I don't know if can you guys hear that?
No, we
Can't hear.
Can't hear it.
Okay, let me see what I need to do. Where did that go?
We can hear it now.
We went in the room. My
You can
doctor
hear it?
said, you have no more
Yeah.
cancer, and we were like, oh my god.
All right. So
We
what the next thing you're going to see
celebrated.
is
Today's
a
my last
demonstration
day
of
chemo.
active listening.
3,
All right.
2.
First there was PlayStation, aka PS1. Then there's PS2, PS3, and now PS4. And that makes sense. You'd think after Xbox, there'd be Xbox 2. But no. Next came Xbox 360. And now, after 360, comes Xbox One. Why one? Maybe that's how many seconds of thought they put into naming it.
Can you get the butter, please?
You know, however, with the Xbox One, I can control my entire entertainment system using voice commands. Up until now, I've had to use Leonard.
Then get the other one. Pass the butter.
Hang on. I don't feel like you're taking this dilemma seriously.
Fine, Sheldon. You have my undivided attention.
Okay, now, the PS4 is more angular and sleek looking.
No way!
It's true, but the larger size of the Xbox One may keep it from overheating.
You wouldn't want your gaming system to overheat?
No, see, well, you absolutely would not. And furthermore, the Xbox One now comes with a Kinect included.
Included?
Yes. Not sold separately. Although the PS4 uses cool new GDDR5 RAM, while the Xbox One is still using the conventional DDR3 memory.
Why would they still be using DDR3? Are they nuts?
See, that's what I thought. But then they go and throw in an ES RAM buffer.
Whoa, wait a second. Who's they?
The Xbox.
You're kidding!
No, I am not. And this ES RAM buffer should totally bridge the 100 gigabit per second bandwidth gap between the two RAM types.
This is a nightmare. How will you ever make a decision?
See, I don't know. What should I do?
Please pass the butter!
All right. So that's
Why?
active listening. It's a dramatic thing, and it sometimes is like one of the best things, but you've got to demonstrate to whoever your listener is that they have your undivided attention. All right. Let me see. I think I might have the right one now. All right. So one of the things that you may have heard of, some of you, can you guys still see my screen? You got the wrong screen though. Let me do this. Got to do a check real quick on, here we go. All right. So universal design for learning, universal learning design, designed for universal learning. It's UDL. Have any of you in conversation with your teachers heard of UDL? No one. You have some of you, nobody. So universal design for learning was actually implemented in the district probably 9 years ago. It, I don't think went over very well. And the sad thing about it, I am a product of Columbus City Schools. My child is a product of Columbus City Schools, and so is my husband. And so one of the things that we talk about often is the fact that the district brings out all of these wonderful tools to implement in the classroom, but they don't use them long enough to see what they really do. And so there have been some people who have still been using the Universal Design for Learning. And then there are others, it's like speaking Russian when you talk about it. But going to see, I have a little bit of a video that's a couple minutes long that kind of gives a better short synopsis of what UDL is. Let me see. Can you guys,
Searching for a better
of
way
course
to
you can't
collaborate
see
with
it.
your team? Try Miro, an online whiteboard made for teamwork.
Can you hear
Everyone's
that? You
welcome,
can hear it,
from
but
project
you can't
managers
see it.
to product managers, designers, developers, agile coaches, and consultants.
Somebody tell me.
Get the whole team
I can't
together
hear
in
you.
real
I
time
can't
on
tell
Miro's
if
infinite canvas. Use your Miro board however you like. For online workshops and
Gotcha.
project planning, or brainstorming and ideation sessions. There's a template tailored.
Don't you just love technology now?
Or catching up in your own
All right,
time.
can you guys see the
Working
screen?
Yep,
You should be able to,
now we got it.
and you can hear.
Imagine you went into a
Yep.
big clothes store and
Thank
all
you.
that was on sale was one type of outfit, in one size, with no thought given to different individual body shapes or personalities. That would be crazy, right? Expecting everyone to be able to fit into the same size and express themselves in the same colour and style? Yet in many cases, that's exactly what is happening in our education system. When it comes to learning, variability is the rule, not the exception, and our college campuses are now grappling with the demands of an increasingly diverse cohort of learners, with increasing numbers of international students, students from different cultural and socio-economic backgrounds, mature students, and students with disabilities. Despite this, curriculums are still designed for the mythical average learner, and all are expected to engage and learn on the same terms. Not enough flexibility is built in at the design stage to give all students equal opportunities to learn in ways that play to their own strengths. So, how can our institutions respond to these challenges? Enter Universal Design for Learning, or UDL for short. UDL is an educational framework that guides the design of learning goals, materials, methods and assessments, as well as the policies surrounding these curricular elements with the diversity of learners in mind. The framework was developed by US organisation CAST and is based on research in the field of neuroscience. It promotes 3 core principles for educators to build into their teaching practice, calling on them to provide students with multiple means of engagement, representation, and action and expression. The framework includes a set of guidelines on how you can turn these principles into practice. For example, by fostering collaboration with the introduction of group work with clear goals, roles, and responsibilities. By using different types of media to support learning and ensuring that all materials are accessible. And by providing a choice of assessment instruments while maintaining robust learning outcomes. You are probably already including some UDL elements in your practice without realising it, and there's much more to explore. So don't be afraid to let Universal Design for Learning give you a new lens through which to look at your teaching and learning practice and help you to better reach all of your students. For more information and resources, visit ahead.ie/UD.
We can't hear you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions about UDL?
Yeah, that just looks like the differentiation of instruction, however you say that, instruction, where you hit all 5 of the learning styles in your presentation.
Hold on, really quick. You are correct, sir. And no, I did not give him the answers to the quiz, folks.
I've been around a long time.
He has been around a long time. And you all are a very valuable source or resource to your classrooms. If you are not told that on a daily minute by minute, or even a weekly or monthly basis, just know you are truly, truly appreciated in the work that you do. Who can see your, what is it? Why did they stop using it? They stopped using it the same reason why they stopped everything. Something new came around the block and they saw the data and said, "Ooh, this helps our kids to make better gains." And I don't really have all of the answers to that question either, but that's one of the things that I know does happen. A new idea, a new kind of something comes up and it looks better to the untrained eye, and so they go with that. And it's kind of, as a parent of a child who grew up in this district, it's a little bit disheartening, but um, we just have to do our best to do the best we can with what we get at the time. So does that make sense? Do your best with what you have in the moment, and just keep it moving. So with that, I'm going to keep it moving. Universal design for learning is one of those things that it's a good thing once you get into it. But it's like anything, you have to just basically you're redesigning what your kids are going to be utilizing, and you're going to make it fit for their situation. And that's something that we are always doing, and that it used to be called, man, now I can't remember what it was called, but hold on a second. I got a new, sorry guys, I'm taking you in and out of my head right now.
Lisa, we have a
Question?
question. It says, is the new model which has replaced UDL similar, but perhaps just more advanced or detailed?
Well, it's not really. And let me stop this because this can. Really, I think the latest thing now is, and I'm gonna not even put it out there because I could be wrong. There have been a couple of different iterations of UDL over the years. UDL came out, was trying to gain traction about 10, 11 years ago. But it's been around for forever. But the district looks at a thing, like I said, that back when our daughter was in elementary school, it was what was it? It was phonics. They were really phonics based, especially in reading programs. And then they moved to something different, but it's really, maybe the district might give a program at district wide, maybe a couple of years at most. But because there's not a real strong district push for UDL, there are some teachers who are using it, but there are a lot of teachers who are not. And a lot of that too comes with comfort level. If a teacher's comfortable with utilizing UDL as a strategy, then they're going to use it. One of the things too, have you heard of scaffolding?
Yep.
Anybody?
Yes.
Scaffolding. So
Yeah.
Scaffolding basically is taking a student where they are, and it's just like the scaffolds that are built by construction workers when they're creating or building a building. They are just layering and layering and layering. And as they're doing that, they're just climbing up and creating a new foundation of learning. And some of that is what is taking place when you're actually working as one of the folks that are at we talked about it when I first got on, centers. The center-based work is scaffolding. You're building on the level of knowledge and understanding that a student has for a particular concept that has been taught. Now, one of the things I'm always going to say to you guys, because I love you and I appreciate the work that you do. You are not teachers, so you should never be introducing anything in your classrooms, but you can support it once the teacher has introduced it. So if there's a new lesson, a new strategy that's being implemented by the classroom teacher, you can take that and basically scale it down so that it's in bite-sized pieces, which back in the day we call it chunking. You could take bits of pieces of the concept so that they make better sense to your students. Sometimes a teacher will get up there who knows math like the back of their hand, and they're going through a whole trigonometry lesson. And you're sitting there with kids who, I'm not being mean, but can barely add 2 + 2, because I would be in that number of kids who can't do trigonometry. So your role is, if you understand what that dynamic looks like, then you're breaking that down for the kids so that they can better understand it. And that's really kind of what your life should be in the classroom. Are there any questions so far?
Lisa, I have
You're
another.
welcome, Emily.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just reading myself.
Okay. We have one. It says, for the second principal representation, what was the effectiveness?
For the second principal representation, I don't understand who, Ms. Kelso?
Yes.
Ms. Kelso, can you just unmute? Thank you, Nicole.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Fine, thank you for asking. So I was looking back on the 3 principles as far as the UDL, the video that you had showed. And then like, I had noticed for the first principle, engagement, they were basically saying that would be effective for that one would be like collaboration, but I didn't get a chance to catch the second principle as far as what they felt would be like helpful. If that makes sense.
You caught me off guard there, and I'm gonna be honest with you. What I could do is send you the link to it, or you can just Universal Design for
Look it
Learning.
up.
Yeah,
Thank
because
you.
I had my notes, because I told y'all I didn't think but one of y'all would show up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. But again, everything that you would find on that particular video or anything regarding Universal Design for Learning could be used across the board in your classrooms. Because at the end of the day, the bulk of what your role is to kind of help guide your students through a lesson. Make it as edible, if you will, as possible. Because the last thing we want for our students is for them to be confused about a concept, not understanding it to a point where they just give up. You guys know your students better than anybody, more so probably than your teachers. And so you can see when a student is getting frustrated because they can't get something, and we have a lot of students in our MD classrooms who may use communication devices because they don't have the verbal communication that is being utilized as part of the teaching process. So with those particular babies, you know how to communicate with them using their devices. And so your role is not easy, by no means. And I'm going to tell you, if you've not heard it or seen it in your classrooms yet, it's going to get harder as time goes, because the reality is we're getting a lot of those babies that probably would not have been in Columbus City schools, but for Franklin County. If Franklin County were still doing what Franklin County was doing 10, 11 years ago, we would not see some of the babies we're seeing now. So get ready. And that's why Nicole's doing what Nicole's doing. And that's why we're working together to try and get you guys as prepared as possible. And I will be honest with you, the last couple of PDs we had, I think in February was the last round of district-wide professional development. I'm always looking for someone to come in and talk about what autism looks like, because I think at the end of the day, autism is probably very pervasive, even amongst us. Because as Dr. Daniel Curry said on the first day that I had him do a presentation, he says, we're all on the spectrum. It just matters on what end of it and how close we are to that end. But we are trying to do what we can to get you guys as much information as possible so that you can utilize that in your classroom with your students. Because as the days go, as we move forward, the more information you have, the better prepared you're going to be. Now, that doesn't mean that every session that you go to that is provided is going to give you the answer to every possible question you could have, because that's just not possible. Because autism is autism, and what looks like autism in one student doesn't look like autism in another. Another common phrase is, if you've seen one child with autism, you've seen one child with autism, because autism does not look the same in everybody. And so that's something that I think is, as you move forward in your work, you're going to be seeing a lot of it. We used to not have those babies who sit in a chair and rock, who stim all constantly. We never used to see that. And even if you think about some of the things you do as an adult, sometimes you pull, there's one section of hair you always play with on your head. That's stimming. You get nervous or anxious in some settings and you start pulling on stuff, or you need, when you go to sleep, there's a certain blanket, those blankets that had the satin across the top and now it's all tore up. That was a part of stimming and calming yourself to get yourself to go to sleep. We never called it that. It was just, oh, that was Linus's blanket. Yeah, but that just provides some security. So when our students are going through what they go through when they're a little unsettled, they're just trying to get comfortable and calm. So sometimes they do a good job at doing that for themselves, and sometimes not so much. And that's why you all are given CPI training, so that you can know the difference between him taking care of himself and being okay in the moment, or when they need some assistance in de-escalating the amped upness that could possibly occur. Karen, do you have a question about CPI?
I do. I actually, I never received that training. So I don't know if that's something I can look into or how I can find out about that, but no idea.
So right now, do you have a CCS email address?
Yes.
So I'm not sure where you guys do your registration for CPI courses, but you can email John Brunton, Brunton. They have some sessions. Yeah, Brunton. They have some sessions, I think, coming up in June, but they have a lot more coming up in August.
Okay.